Good morning, everybody. Honorable Justice Raghavendra Chavan, Senior Judge of the Karnataka High Court, a judge before whom I have had the privilege and honor of appearing on more than a few number of cases. Unfortunately, when you are appearing for the government, they happen to be bad cases most of the time. So, but I have done my best. But one thing I must tell about the Honorable Judge is that every time you walk out of his court after having argued a matter, you will come out thinking or feeling, why didn't I think of that? And this has happened to me every time. So he is a very innovative thinking judge, a new judge for us because he's come from a different state, but a wonderful judge and a great judge, and we are all privileged to have him as a senior judge of our High Court, and it's my privilege and honor to be sharing the dais with him today. And our alumni, Justice Pratibha Singh, who has made every single ULCite proud, every Kannadiga proud, as Professor Coutinho said. She is our judge, she is from our land, she is from Karnataka, she is a Kannadiga for all of us. And so we are very proud of you, ma'am, and thank you for having come here and graced this occasion. And I say this as an alumni of this institution. Professor V.B. Coutinho, my principal for 5 years when I was in law college, and former Vice Chancellor of the Gulbarga University, an inspiration to all of us forever. And every time I step in here to this institute and meet all the alumni, you basically realize what he has done, not just for the 5-year law course, for all those students, and especially the first year batch. And I think they all carry his photograph in their pockets, and that's the kind of contribution that he has made. And in this process of setting up this institution, he has contributed to the development of law, to the development of the judiciary, to the development of the bar, and there can be no greater contribution than the Guru's contribution. So it's Professor V.B. Coutinho, Professor Sudesh, our principal of the University Law College and Dean, Bangalore University, Mr. Gautam, who is the President of the Alumni Association, and my seniors in college, my seniors in the bar, friends, ladies and gentlemen, and of course I see a lot of students, present students who are here. Constitution Day, we know that the central government has now announced this day on which the Constitution was adopted to commemorate the occasion as Constitution Day. But to lawyers and to students of law, every day is a Constitution Day. We don't need reasons to celebrate the Constitution. We are here as lawyers, we are here as judges, we are here as an institution of judiciary, enjoying the independence, whatever the independence that exists on the present day. Because of this, there is no need for a specific day to celebrate, but of course, to commemorate the occasion, this is a day which we celebrate as the Constitution Day. And what is it about the Constitution that I want to share with all of you is, firstly, Dr. Ambedkar, as the President of the Constituent Assembly, left us with no choice. He said that the Constitution is good if the people who work it are good. And who are the people who are going to work the Constitution? It is every citizen, every person in this country. So he made the Constitution along with the other members of the Constituent Assembly. It was adopted, we became a republic, and then it is a Constitution which we have adopted for ourselves as a people of this country, and it is left to us to work this Constitution. So if it is a good Constitution, it is because the people are good. If it fails, it is because the people have failed the Constitution, and the Constitution can never fail the people. So we are left with no choice but to ensure that we make this Constitution work. And since there are so many students, I would like to remember my own association, or what do you call, relationship with this fantastic, wonderful document. The first time I read, I'll be very honest with you, the first time I read the Constitution was 2 days before the examination, and this was a subject in third year of our course. I don't know if it still remains the same. My seniors told me, read Article 1 to 32, you're all set, don't worry about anything else, and go and write your examinations. And that's exactly what I did. I sat for 2 days, by hearted Article 1, Article 2 32, and I did very well. I did very well in the examination. In fact, it was one of the best marks I scored in the course. But then you become a lawyer and you think back and you ask yourself, did you really deserve those 60 plus marks that you got? And I can't believe that I scored 62 because I knew nothing about the Constitution. But you see, that's how you start. So I read these articles, then as a lawyer, you start reading the Constitution in the beginning to find ways to win your case. So you interpret it in a way that it helps your particular case. You see, that's how you start off then as a lawyer, this is how you start off as a student. At least in our days, that was how we started off as students. But now I get interns from first year, second year, they're all already jurists. You see, so I don't talk about the present generation, that's how we started off. And then, you see, as a lawyer you grow, you develop. And each day, the way you read the Constitution, the way you read this, understand this document changes, and it changes dramatically. And you believe me when I say this, it changes absolutely dramatically. And then you see, you grow as a human being, you grow as a person, you grow as a lawyer, you meet more people, and each day the articles have a different meaning, everything changes with each day. And then you realize that this document is meant to meet every evolving, every changing situation in this country. That is what it was meant for. And then how do you adapt it? And how you adapt it, you can see the various judgments of the High Courts, of the Supreme Court, transforming from a basic English language into something so great that it's unbelievable. Now for me, from what I have seen as a society, privacy is culturally absent in our country. Culturally, we are the most inquisitive people. We want to know about everybody's business except our own. So there is no concept of privacy in our culture. This is my own opinion. But then Supreme Court today reads privacy as a fundamental right. You see, such a transformation from what we actually are and how the Constitution is now read to be a part of right to life. So that's how this document requires to be read and requires to be understood, and it is a process, and it's a process of learning, and I'm sure about 5 years from now I'll say something totally different to what I'm saying right now. So in this process, when I read first, for example, Article 21, my understanding was this, that if a person is living, his right to life is protected. So irrespective of whether he is, lying on a bench in a park and with torn clothes, with no food, no shelter, as long as his heart is beating, I would say Article 21 is protected. There is no infringement because that is all it is about. You see, it's right to life. But now you have seen the kind of judgments, the kind of evolution that article has taken, and how Supreme Court and various courts have come forward to interpret this and protect all our rights. Now as we go along, you see, in the concept of how this Constitution has to be read and understood, I will just quote one paragraph from a judgment of the Supreme Court, which if I had probably read as a student, I would have said, are you serious? Is this how it could be? Article 21 is right to life, and Supreme Court in the case of Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh versus the Supreme Court, so Chief Justice of Andhra Pradesh versus Dixitlu, while interpreting 371D would say, and I'll quote from the judgment, says the Constitution is a living integrated organism having a soul and consciousness of its own. The pulse beats emanating from the spinal cord of the basic framework, and it can be felt all over its body, even in the extremities of its limbs. Constitutional exposition is not mere literary garniture, nor mere exercise in grammar. Now for you to reach a stage of understanding that Article 21 could be read in this form, it takes time, and that is what is the greatness of this wonderful document. Now why do we celebrate it? Now there is, the Constitution is, there are so many written constitutions, several countries have written constitution. What's so great about this country? Well, for starters, it brought about 500 princely states, the people of 500 princely states, it brought them together to give them a democratic form of governance. It gave the country sovereignty, and it then said, you have equality irrespective of the caste, color and creed that you belong. You have equal opportunity, equality in law. Then very more importantly, recognizing the plurality of the society that we live in, the plural society that we live in, it said it shall be a secular state, and it shall ensure that religion shall play no part as far as the state functions are concerned. And these are some of the reasons that this is such a far more greater document than that you will ever get to see. And that's why, in my opinion, this God, you have to celebrate it, and you must celebrate it every day of your life, irrespective of whether you're a lawyer, a student of law, or a citizen doing something else in this country. Now, I was given 10 minutes, so I will not take much more, although there's so much that I want to say when you say Constitution, because from having read it in law college to now, what I've understood is, you've got to fall in love with this document. You've got to embrace it. You've got to go into the depth and really feel and, I would say love it with all your feelings and senses for you to understand the value, enormity and the greatness of this document called the Constitution of India. Now, the day you do that, you will, really appreciate what we are looking at. Now, as we go along, there's one thing before I conclude that I want to say, is that constitutional functionaries, constitutional institutions have been given certain constitutional responsibilities. They have failed us. Several institutions, several functionaries have time and again in the last 70 years of our independence failed us. When they fail us, as Dr. Ambedkar said, it is for us to stand up and be counted and ensure that these machineries function. Now, I say this now, for example, Supreme Court has said this in the case of Subhash Chandra. They said when constitutional machineries fail, then people must step in. People must step in and set the law into motion and ignite the legal process to ensure that these functionaries function. And in the present context, it is very important that you understand it, and I'm sure most of the lawyers who are here understand it in what context I am saying. And I want to say that Justice Pratibha Singh, we are very happy and very proud that you went from here, went to Delhi, made a mark, became a distinguished lawyer, and now a judge of the Delhi High Court. But we are happy you went to Delhi for the reason that they are not making any judges in Karnataka anymore. You see, that's why we are very happy that you went there and you are a judge of the Delhi High Court. And I don't want to say anything more. There are some distinguished guests. I'm sure they'll enlighten you on all of you on the Constitution. I want to thank the Alumni Association, the President, Professor Sudesh, and all of you for having given me this opportunity and this privilege, for having shared the dais with these distinguished guests, and also an opportunity to have addressed all of you, most of you my seniors and alumni of this college. So thank you so much.
Now I call upon Ms.